do you guys not think I have like cable or like a streaming service or something? I know this Ravens are out of the playoffs. I know they are. Okay? I know. You don't, like, a number of you Steelers fans like DM me that, like, you found my Instagram just to rub that in. Like, don't do that, okay? Don't bring up the contract situation. I'm in a very fragile state as a Ravens fan right now. Like, don't do that. Like, don't test me, because I will find you. I will strap you to a chair. The next one of you who DMs me some stuff like that, I will find you. I will strap you to a chair, and I will make you watch Emmanuel Achu takes for 12 hours straight. Yeah, I'm sick like that. I would put you through that. Don't test me. So we're barely a month into 2023, and we're already being bombarded with the newest AntonioBrown thing. He decided to post explicit videos and pictures of him engaging in, those acts with the mother of his last born children and some random Instagram model, right? So he obviously ends up getting called out. He's trending all over Twitter all day. I regret clicking the trending tab. If you know, you know. And yeah, he eventually gets suspended by Snapchat. And the usual discourse involving AntonioBrown's latest thing ensues, and people are rightfully calling him out. But one thing I've noticed, ever since AntonioBrown in the fall of 2019 decided to be an asshat for the whole world to see almost every other month, every time he gets into a thing or does a thing or is a thing for all the wrong reasons, usually, people come in and they're like, well, ever since that hit with Vontaze Burfict, he hasn't been the same. He hasn't been the same since that Vontaze Burfict. His CTE's acting up.
My CTE acting up.
They think like they're the most like genius people ever. Like they're the first people to ever say it. And like everyone's like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. I thought the same thing. And it's like, oh my God, shut up. It's like, they're the equivalent of the people who were never Kanye acts up. They're like, well, he hasn't been the same since his mom died. It's just like, okay. Safe to say that I'm not aboard the AntonioBrown CTE train. For those of you who don't know, CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, okay? It is a condition that usually athletes in high impact sports get from repeated violent blows to the brain, right? It completely alters your brain chemistry, the physical brain, leads to dementia, memory loss, very erratic behavior, poor decision making, aggression. We've seen athletes affected by these in super tragic ways in real time. The most prominent being Junior Seau and Aaron Hernandez. And those were just, wow, CTE is a very serious thing, but with AntonioBrown, it's almost become a meme, right? And even worse, it's become an excuse, in my opinion. And I'm here today to push back on the AntonioBrown has CTE narrative, because we don't know for sure if he does. It's factually incorrect to say he does, because the only way we know for sure is if he's deceased, unfortunately, and his brain can be examined. AntonioBrown has been this guy for a long time, and you're either poorly researched or an enabler if you continue to push the CTE narrative after watching this video. Right before 2010, when AntonioBrown was selected in the 6th round with the 195th draft pick, I think it was the 195th pick. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But he didn't just start being talented in the NFL, right? He was selected to go to the NFL for a reason. AntonioBrown has been a beast ever since high school. He grew up in a family with no real father figure. His dad was a arena football player and was on the road most of the time, right? So he overcame a lot. But there's a reason he wasn't a household name in college, and that's because he got kicked out of the first university that offered him a scholarship, which was Florida International University, for getting into it with a student on campus. And way before that, he had a bunch of behavioral issues along with bad grades, which didn't see him being as scouted as he needed to. He was playing pretty much every position in high school. It was crazy. But again, there's a reason he wasn't scouted. Behavioral issues, grades, and all that. He gets a chance at FIU, like I said, gets kicked out for getting into it with the student. Then he finally gets like his last chance at CMU, right? And thankfully he walks on. But I want you to look at this picture.
Look at this photograph.
These series pictures. I want you to really look at this picture and tell me that this is any different from the AB we know today.
They're the same picture.
So even at CMU, AntonioBrown presented a lot of issues to scouts, right? In his scouting report, there was a lot of notes about behavior, attitude, questions about, work ethic, which I'll push back on a little bit because I think he has a great work ethic. But the overall consensus was talented player, lots of issues, which is how the Steelers happened to find this treasure in the late 6th round, okay? So I hope you see now that AntonioBrown is no stranger to controversy. Even before the Vontaze Burfict hit, this dude was getting hit with fines left and right for excessive celebrations, twerking in the end zone, and doing a whole lot of extra stuff.
You're seeing 2 in the...
When AntonioBrown was vying for his contract extension, you had tons of people coming out, right? And they weren't given much limelight. But one prominent voice, an ex-Steeler, Ryan Clark, was shameless in basically saying, do not give AntonioBrown money.
To myself, I'm talking to Coach Gary Guimont, strength coach. I said, when y'all give him his money, you're going to create a monster. And so he goes, he gets it. So coming into the next practice, he just got his money. He cusses out Dick LeBeau, right? Coach LeBeau, somebody who Troy, myself, James Ferrier, all respected so much that anything he ever said, there was never a reply, right? He says he's the franchise. He says you can't touch me. He's talking to Keenan Lewis and different guys that are covering. And we almost get into a physical altercation that day.
You and him.
Me and AntonioBrown.
Yeah.
Because my thing was, this is not how
And it was kind of out of character for Ryan Clark because he's very pro-player. He's always advocating for players to get theirs. But for him to come out and say, this dude is a problem, he's already a menace, he's already a problem, but if you give him money, he's going to turn into a monster. And, everyone called Ryan a hater, but there were rumblings for a long time, if you followed closely, that, AntonioBrown, great player, but a lot of issues. All anyone can see is the Vontaze Burfict hit, right? That's where everything goes downhill in everyone's mind. I think that's incorrect because what I am arguing is there were tons of signs way before this. Way before, okay? It started in high school, college, early years before his big contract extension. AntonioBrown has always been a problem. It's not an issue of CTE. Like I said, we don't even know if he has it. AntonioBrown's real problem is his self-destructive spirit. It's called self-destruction for a reason. It's kind of a customized experience for each and every one, but there are about 3 elements that appear in almost every instance of self-destruction. And that is short-sightedness, a lack of accountability, and yes men. And AntonioBrown has a perfect mix of all 3. He's extremely short-sighted. Burning bridges with Tom Brady, one of the best, greatest players of all time, who fought for you to come back into the league twice. He fought for you in New England. Then you burned him by insulting the owner, who's a good close friend of his. Then he fought for you to return in Tampa Bay, where you ended up winning a Super Bowl. Now you're roasting him and his wife and making fun of his divorce. AntonioBrown couldn't shut his mouth for literally a week to sign a guaranteed $33 million contract, which, based on all the lawsuits he's in right now, he'll probably need in the very near future. Just a whole lot of short-sighted bridge burning around this guy. Selling, a business partner friend a fake Rolex that now is going to cost you the cost of the watch and a bunch of lawyer fees because it's verifiably fake. Also the poster child of lacking accountability. Every single time AntonioBrown gets into a thing, does a thing, becomes a thing, it's everybody else's fault. It's the media for putting him on blast and not minding their business, even though he loves attention. It's, Chelsea's fault, because she won't take care of the kids or won't support him. It's Big Ben's fault. It's the NFL. It's everyone but Antonio Brown. And you begin to see how that's an issue. Because if you don't have any accountability, you can't grow. You can't really look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm not a perfect being. I have flaws. I need to work on this. And I guarantee you, Antonio Brown never does that. And lastly, Antonio Brown is surrounded by a bunch of yes men, okay? Yes men are the people on Twitter using CTE as an excuse. And
My CTE acting up.
is Chelsea, who I don't think it's right that he published, revenge porn, which I don't think it's right for him to publish revenge porn essentially on you. But you keep going back and having kids with this man, even though he treats you like garbage. He literally threw a bag of candy penises at you.
Bag of dicks for the dicks. Hey, Charles, here go the bag of dicks. Fish head.
You're teaching him that he can do whatever he wants and you'll still be there. Yes men would also be every podcast host who has Antonio Brown on simply for the views. He's great ad revenue. And it creates a sensational headline that will put your podcast or your sit down show, at the top of, the Google metrics or YouTube metrics, all of that. The yes men, who I don't personally know, right? We don't have the names of everybody in his circle, but maybe his friends and family who aren't sitting him down and telling him that he's wrong. And you can't control a grown man's actions, but you can remove a little bit of your support, like his grandma cheering him on for pulling a bunch of antics to get out of Oakland.
Grandma, they freed me. They freed me, Grandma. Ah, God.
Again, it's a personal thing. When you're self-destructive personally, you have to take accountability and responsibility for your own actions on your own. But also, if you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are telling you your completely psychotic, irrational behavior is okay, then how will that ever happen? It can't. Antonio Brown, in my opinion, is not suffering from CTE. Antonio Brown is suffering from the spirit of self-destruction, a lack of accountability. He's surrounded by a bunch of yes men who make jokes about the antics he pulls and jokes about CTE, which has really affected people and former athletes, their lives, their families, and all that in a negative way. Stop coddling this man and stop using Vontaze Burfict as the excuse for why Antonio Brown is going to crash and burn. Because stories like his only end up one of two ways: dead or in jail. He recently escaped a standoff with the police after, a week? But I promise you, the next time they come looking for him, he's going to be put away for a long time. Thank you guys for watching my latest rant. More to come. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. And have a great rest of your day.